Okay, guys, so welcome everyone. Next chapter आपला आहे lesson number 13, chemical change and chemical bond. So the changes are of two types. Changes are of two types: chemical change and physical change. Chemical change and physical change. So what is the difference between these two changes? You have already learned about it. Let's परत बघा एकदा. Now, what are the methods of classifying changes? Difference between physical and chemical change. Can you recall? म्हणजे काय तुम्हाला ऑलरेडी हे आधी झालेलं आहे. ये आपको पहले हो चुका है, right? Now, the difference between physical and chemical change is that in a physical change there is no new substances formed. There is no new substances formed. And in a chemical change there is a new substance formed. Physical change. So yes, mute the sound. Very good. So physical change is reversible, chemical change is irreversible. What are the examples? Ripening of mango, this is your chemical change. Melting of ice, physical change. Boiling of water, physical change. Dissolution of salt in water, chemical change. Ripening of banana, chemical change. Fragrance of ripening fruit, chemical change. Darkening of a cut potato, it is also chemical change. Bursting of inflated balloon, it is also chemical change. Sound of bursting firecracker, chemical change. Foul smell from a spoiled food, it is also chemical change. Right? So during any chemical change, composition of original substance change to form new substance. लक्षात घ्या. So melting of ice melt झाल्यावर तुम्हाला फक्त पाणीच मिळणार आहे. Okay, there is no change. उसका दूध दही नहीं बनेगा. But yes. Getting so how to identify chemical change whenever there is a formation of new substance, right? What is the example? तुम्ही exam पाहिले असतील. सफरचंद कापून बघा तुम्ही ठेवल्यानंतर you can see guys, even the bread, लोखंड बघा. Okay, there is the rusting of iron. These are all the examples of chemical changes. समजलं? जास्त डीप मध्ये जात नाही मी. चलो next. So chemical change and word equation. So what is a chemical change, guys? Whenever there are two substances mixed, that is citric acid, when mixed with sodium bicarbonate, you get carbon dioxide formed and you get a sodium citrate. So whenever there is such a reaction, it is a chemical reaction, and this reaction is neutralization reaction where acid and alkali. Alkali means base. Alkali means what? Base. So acid and base form salt and water or any other compound. Getting? So this is the example of chemical, neutralization reaction and a chemical change. Getting, guys? So when baking soda is added to lemon juice, आपण बऱ्याच वेळा घरी पण प्रयोग केलेला आहे. तुम्ही लिंबू पाणी घेऊ शकता, ओके? आणि त्याच्यामध्ये तुम्ही लिंबू पाणी घ्या किंवा लिंबू पाणी आणि सोडा मिक्स करा. सोडा कोणता? बेकिंग सोडा. You'll find the effervescence. बरोबर काय effervescence कसलं असतात? कार्बन डायऑक्साइड गॅस त्याच्यातून बाहेर पडतो. बुडबुड येतात ना, फसफस येतो, फुसफुस फेस वगैरे येतो. दॅट इज त्याच्यातून CO2 बाहेर पडतो. त्याला effervescence म्हणतात. Right? Now there are different steps of writing a chemical reaction. What are the chemical reactions? How to write chemical reaction? Word equation by using the names of the concerned substance. So when chemical formula is written in place of each of the name becomes a chemical equation, right? So instead of hydrogen, usually we simply write H2. H2 means hydrogen. Okay, instead of writing carbon dioxide, we write CO2. So the reactants are taken on the left hand side and product is taken on the right hand side. And here आपण दाखवतो arrow we show. Right? So arrowhead points toward the substance formed. So arrow indicates the direction of the reaction. Arrow indicates the direction of the reactor. So the reactants are on the left hand side. New substance formed are on the products. They are on the right hand side. You'll come to know about this whenever you'll write a chemical reaction. Now, what are the chemical changes in everyday life? No. So in our surrounding, body, home, laboratory, there are many different changes. So first one is the example is the respiration. बघा, आपल्या शरीरात आपण respiration करतो, आपण जे श्वासोच्छवास घेतो, it is also a kind of chemical reaction. काय होतं simple तुम्हाला माहिती आहे? Glucose. From where do we get glucose? Glucose कुठून मिळतं आपल्याला? आपण जे काही अन्नपदार्थ खातो, whatever we eat, okay, that gives us glucose. Oxygen is taken from the air through the respiration. आपण respire करतो, आपण हवेतला ऑक्सिजन घेतो, right? Then there is a process known as respiration. It forms carbon dioxide and water, and we get energy, right? समजलं? So here the glucose can be written as C6H12O6. Oxygen is written as O2. This is a chemical equation and word equation. We generally follow chemical equation. So carbon dioxide is written as CO2 and water is written as H2O. So this is your chemical reaction. Getting it? So carbon dioxide forms glucose and oxygen forms carbon dioxide and water. This is a chemical reaction. It happens in our body. So respiration is continuously occurring biological process. Continuously होता है जोपर्यंत अपन जीवंत आहोत तोपर्यंत जब तक हम जिंदा है तब तक हमारे बॉडी में हमारे yes, in our body the process happens continuously. In this process we inhale air and exhale carbon dioxide. So what is air? In that air we have a oxygen. After an DF study, it learned that the glucose in the cells react with oxygen in inhaled air. See, we do not inhale only oxygen. आपण फक्त oxygen आपल्या शरीरामध्ये घेतो का? नाही. So this is a chemical reaction, guys. One more example reaction is given to you. Carbon dioxide, calcium hydroxide forms calcium carbonate and water. And write a chemical equation. So let's write, guys. Carbon dioxide means CO2. I'm writing this word equation. Into chemical equation. So carbon dioxide plus calcium hydroxide. Calcium hydroxide is written as Ca bracket O H twice. It gives you what? It gives you calcium carbonate, that is CaCO3, CaCO3. Cm is calcium, and it also gives you water. You think, guys? Okay, guys. So let's go ahead. Very interesting chapter it is. अगर हम offline होते तो बहुत अच्छी तरह से पढ़ा पाता था मैं. Don't worry, we will again repeat it. The second process is photosynthesis. This is a process by which we get the food, or the plants produce their foods, or ultimately the food is acquired by us. So you know that green plants, all green plants perform photosynthesis in sunlight. For growth of any plant, you know very well that it requires sunlight. Surya Prakash pahiye, Suraj ki rosni chahiye hoti hai. And it also requires water. A word equation and a chemical equation that is unbalanced can be written. Okay. Unbalanced balance क्या है? ये इतना टेंशन मत लो, ये आपको 10th में आ जाएगा. क्या है? छोड़ दो. So what is the word equation, guys? Carbon dioxide. आपको पता है that trees, what the trees do? Trees take the carbon dioxide from the air and water from the hello. Yes, I'm again repeating. Trees take carbon dioxide from the air and water from the ground. So in presence of sunlight and green plant, that means there is a substance known as chlorophyll. It forms glucose and oxygen. Getting, guys? So you might have seen that this photosynthesis process is totally opposite of respiration. देखो ना, respiration में ये left hand side में था, and this was on the right hand side. But here this process is totally reversed. ये पूरा opposite process है. So here carbon dioxide, that is taken as CO2, and water, that is H2O. It forms glucose, that is C6H12O6, and oxygen is released in the air or atmosphere. Get it? Samjha? So these are the two examples. Now, what are man-made chemical changes? Now, these are the natural changes we have seen. What are the man-made chemical changes? So we bring about many chemical changes in our day-to-day life or everyday life. Let us see some of them. Okay. So the chemical name that we saw in first activity, that was cold drink. Cold drink hota hai na, soda, lemon. It means that it is usual man-made chemical change. सोडा हमने सबने पिया है, that is any cold drink हम पीते हैं, right? First one is combustion of fuel. So why do we combust fuel? आपण का बरं जाळतो? We want a fire. We want fire, and for the production of fire, we combust the fuels. आपल्या घरामध्ये काय काय बघा? We have at our home cooking gas, that is LPG. आहे ना सगळ्या घरात? Yes. LPG आहे. पेट्रोल आपल्या गाडीमध्ये लागतं, कारमध्ये, रिक्षामध्ये आता सीएनजी आले ना, motorcycle, etc. Coal, kosa, wood, right? Lakho. So they are burned for getting energy, and this energy is used for the preparation of food. आपलं अन्न बनवायला याचे उपयोग food or milk. The common substance that burns in all, it is carbon. Carbon associated. It has carbon. So when carbon in the presence of oxygen, it forms carbon dioxide. So this is a body equation and it is a chemical equation. So carbon and oxygen, carbon is C, oxygen is O2, it forms carbon dioxide, that is CO2. This reaction is fast and it is irreversible. Irreversible means it cannot be reversed. इसको पीछे नहीं किया जा सकते हम. We cannot separate this carbon dioxide into carbon and oxygen. Okay? That is known as irreversible. One more example is given to you, that is cleaning of Shahabad tile with dilute HCl, that is hydrochloric acid. See, if you have seen the old homes, जर जुने घर ती बघितले असते, त्या ठिकाणी जी फरशी असते, that is a Shahabad tile. आपल्या घरामध्ये आता नवीन घरामध्ये नाही आहे, आपल्या नवीन घरामध्ये सगळ्यांना वेगवेगळ्या टाइल्स आहेत, बट अगर हमने पुराना घर देखा होगा या फिर किसी का होगा, तो जो नीचे छोटे-छोटे टाइल्स होते हैं, that they are all the Shahabad tiles. So what happens during its cleaning with hydrochloric acid, the upper layer of the tile reacts with hydrochloric acid and three products are formed. One is calcium chloride here, another is carbon dioxide, and another is what? Water. Okay. So calcium carbonate is CaCO3. CO3 is calcium carbonate. I'm writing the chemical equation, guys. Hydrochloric acid is HCl. You know very well that hydrochloric acid is used for cleaning toilets and etc. So it forms calcium chloride, that is CaCl2. It forms carbon dioxide, CO2 gas is released during this process. Okay, and water is formed. So this is the chemical equation I am writing. I have written. Next, we'll learn about softening of hard water. So what is hard water, guys? So the water in which we do not get a good foam, चांगला फेस त्या पाण्यामध्ये येत नाही, त्याला आपण हार्ड वॉटर म्हणतो. मतलब हम जब कपड़े धोते हैं या फिर कपड़े धोते हैं या फिर नहाते हैं, so कभी कभी क्या होता है, जो बोर वाटर, जो बोरवेल वाटर होता है, उसमें ज्यादा फोम नहीं होता, फेस इतना ही समझ आता. So that is the hard water. So how to soften it? देखिए, some wells or tube wells have hard water. लक्षात घ्या, विहिरीचं पाणी पण असतं, or you can have the tube well. Tube well means आपलं ज्याला आपण बोरवेल वॉटर वगैरे म्हणतो, खूप नलिका, like that. Now what happens here? It is brackish to taste and does not form lather with soap. Just the face, right? This is because hard water contains chloride and sulfate salts of calcium and magnesium in dissolved state. Okay, ये उसमें present होता है, therefore they do not get lather, म्हणजे foam व्यवस्थित मिळत नाही सापडत. So what happens here? The calcium chloride and sodium carbonate reacts with and form calcium carbonate and sodium chloride. Getting to soften hard water, क्या करते हैं? A solution of washing soda उसमें add करते हैं. So this results in a chemical reaction to form a precipitate of insoluble carbonate salts of calcium and magnesium. Getting? So Calcium chloride is CaCl2. Sodium carbonate is Na2CO3. It forms calcium carbonate, that is CaCO3, and finally it forms sodium chloride, that is NaCl. NaCl हमको पता है, NaCl is a common salt. जो हमारे घर में salt use करते हैं, जो मीठ वापरतो आपण ते NaCl आहे, त्याला sodium chloride आपण म्हणतो. बेटे खूप छान चॅप्टर आहे तुमचा, very interesting guys, because it gives you the information of daily products or daily substances. Now next thing. Now we saw that the chemical composition of matter changes during a chemical change, okay, and a new substance is formed. So how it is formed, and what are the changes, guys? So the changes are what? The changes are chemical changes. They are because of some chemical bonds that are released or that are formed. So what is the chemical bond? Now we have seen the relationship of between electronic configuration and valency of the element inside the atom, right? I have already told you that suppose this is your atom. Here the protons, which are positively charged particles, neutrons, they do not have any charge, and around that nucleus there are electrons, which are negatively charged particles, move. Okay, the electrons have to. So this is how we can show the atom of any element. Okay? So these electrons, the electrons, they form the bonds. They form various kinds of bonds. Hello. Moreover, on forming a chemical bond equal to its valency, the atom attains the electronic configuration of complete octet or duplet. So what is octet, guys? See, you can see 8. 8 means octet. So the last orbit of the atom should be filled. So ionic bond, how it forms? Example, NaCl. I'm directly taking your example. Na is what? Sodium. Atomic number is 11. Atomic number is 11. So what happens? See, I'll show you here. Suppose this is your sodium. Orbit number 1, orbit number 2, and orbit number 3. So there are different elements. Sorry, electrons. There are 2 electrons in the first orbit. 2. Are you getting? In the second orbit, there are 8 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So the second orbit is also fulfilled. Duplet, 2 full, 8. Now only 1 electron is remaining, and that is here. Okay, in the third orbit. Now we'll take the atom of chlorine. Same. First orbit, second orbit, and this is third orbit. But diagram is not good, guys, so try to understand. Now, what happens? The first orbit, there are 2 electrons. 1, 2. In the second orbit, there are 8 electrons. See here, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. In the third orbit, there are 7 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now both sodium and chlorine, they are not electronically stable. They are not actually stable. So to become stable, the octet should be complete. Okay, octet पूर्ण झाली पाहिजे, octet उनका पूरा होना चाहिए. So what happens, guys? ये क्या होता है यहाँ पे? What happens here? See, यहाँ पे एक इलेक्ट्रॉन है. So this electron it gives to chlorine. तो क्या होता है? यहाँ का एक इलेक्ट्रॉन चला गया. So this becomes 2 and 8. इसका ऑक्टेट पूरा हो गया लास्ट ऑर्बिट में. It becomes stable. और यहाँ पे 7 है ना, 7 में एक इलेक्ट्रॉन ऐड हो जाएगा. So it also becomes 2, 8, 8. So chlorine becomes 2, 8, 8. So chlorine is stable हो जाएगा. That means this 1 electron goes to this orbit. Get it? So now what happens? I'll tell you here. I'll show you here. Yes. So this one electron is added to the chlorine. बघा इथे हा इलेक्ट्रॉन इकडे add. Now, so this becomes NaCl, sodium chloride. Okay, and the bond form is the bond formation here. Here, it is known as ionic bond. Getting guys? Getting guys? So when the elements of sodium and chloride combine, the atom of sodium gives its valence electron to a chloride atom. See, Na plus कधी form होतो whenever it gives the electron, it becomes Na plus. Cl minus कधी होतं whenever it takes the electron, it becomes Cl minus. And they form NaCl, that is sodium chloride. This bond form is known as ionic bond or an electrovalent bond, and the compound form is known as ionic compound. Okay, so how this charge plus charge minus charge कैसा गायब होगा वो समझते हैं, easy है. So here proton होते हैं 11 plus इलेक्ट्रॉन्स पर कितने होते हैं, इलेक्ट्रॉन्स भी कितना था यहाँ पे 11 माइनस. So plus minus 11 minus 0, यहाँ पे 0 था. Here also 17 protons, that means 17 plus, that is your atomic number, and 17 electrons, right? अभी बोलोगे कि सर ये Na plus और Cl minus कैसे है? I'll tell you here. यहाँ का एक इलेक्ट्रॉन चला गया, right? एक इलेक्ट्रॉन चला गया तो ये कितना हो गया देखिए, ये क्या हो गया, यहाँ का एक इलेक्ट्रॉन देखो ना, it is shown here. This electron is donated to others. So here plus 11 और एक इलेक्ट्रॉन चला गया, that means minus 10. So plus 11 minus 10 मैथमेटिक्स निकालो, आपको देगा that is plus 1. यहाँ पे क्या होता है, एक इलेक्ट्रॉन आया, so this becomes plus 17 and minus 18. Minus 17 minus 1 कितना था, minus 18. इसको सॉल्व करो, you get minus 1. समझा? Are you getting? Similar way, there are different ions of form. This is magnesium chloride, MgCl. Okay. Now, covalent bond. See, here Mg plus 2 है, because it takes it gives 2 electrons. यहाँ पे Mg का आपका है ना, Mg2 plus है, because it gives 2 electrons. देखो, एक यहाँ पे दिया इस क्लोरीन को और एक यहाँ पे दिया इस क्लोरीन को. क्लोरीन का तो वही रहेगा Cl माइनस, लेकिन मैग्नीशियम में आपका 2 क्लोरीन, देखो this 2 क्लोरीन, sorry 2 इलेक्ट्रॉन उसने डोनेट किए, therefore it is plus 2, right? That means plus 12 and minus 10. 2 इलेक्ट्रॉन है ना, so that becomes plus 2. So therefore it is written Mg plus 2, Mg plus 2 or Mg2 plus 2. Now, what is the covalent bond? Covalent bond form is because of the sharing of electrons. यहाँ पे electrons donate नहीं होते, they are only shared. समझा? ये सिर्फ share होते हैं, एक donate नहीं होते यहाँ पे. समझा? Example is between the hydrogen and hydrogen. That is the difference. Where we actually donate the electron, magnesium ने या फिर sodium ने, it has already or actually donated the electron, but here there is no donation. There is only sharing of electrons. So one hydrogen, another hydrogen mixes form H2, and there is only sharing of electrons. So this is the major difference between the two. Getting guys? Here, water molecule is also a covalent compound, because here one oxygen molecule combines with 2 hydrogen and it forms H2O, right? Here only the sharing of electrons, and hydrogen का डुप्लेट कंप्लीट हो जाता है, and oxygen का octet कंप्लीट होता है. See 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Oxygen का क्या है, 6 है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉन्फ़िगरेशन, that means 8 है 2, 6. So ये electron. See, atom cannot give its electron. So what happens? There is only sharing of electrons. So that is the difference between covalent bond and ionic bond. Getting guys? So छोटा चैप्टर था, खत्म कर दिया और इम्पोर्टेंट टास्क ही हमने लिए थे. पूरा चैप्टर वर्ड टू वर्ड मैंने रीड नहीं करवाया. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज मैं आपको इसमें से बता दूंगा. चलो.